Okay, in this video we are going to talk about Kundalini, life force energy, the story of Kundalini. So Kundalini can be thought of like a serpentine energy and is often showing up in mythology across the globe as a serpent or a snake. That is because this energy, it oscillates, just like you see in the chakra course, the moving of the life force of Ida and Pingala up the spine do this oscillating movement till they reach the third eye. Upon meeting here, then that energy is able to fuse in an inner alchemical marriage. So this Kundalini life force, of course, is the force of our life. Around age 7, 8, that force begins to lie dormant. It starts to come down and just lie dormant in our body. This is the time of our life we develop an identity and the ego mind, which is actually a necessary part of the growth and development of a person for his survival. But at that time, a child has its life force. Before that, a child has its life force pumping fully through the spine, allowing them this innocence of a child, because they really don't see separation between you and I. Now, moments of trauma or events in childhood that are hurtful can trigger some severing from that life force energy, and then different traumas might be stored at that time. But the life force current, again, especially as we get close to puberty, that force that was pulsing in the spine together begins to really become erratic, and the main force itself comes to rest at the base of the spine in what's called the kunda. And it's actually in the gland down at the base, in the men in the perineum, and the woman, it is near that, and within that G-spot location. So this kunda, this life force energy, coils itself. It's said to coil itself in waiting. Now, if a child is encouraged to continue yoga practice and mantra, that can help that energy to stay active and to continue to even out, changing that time of puberty to being a little softer, and then retaining a lot of that childlike wonder, that oneness vibration that adults are seeking to get back to. So there is a way to carry it through, but for most of us who are adults and we are seeking to know more about our life force energy, so what happens is at some point in our life, that kunda, that energy, is awakened. It is like startled and starts to come alive. Now, this can happen early in your life and happen middle of your life, but if it hasn't happened by age 40, generally age 40 is it. And some call it the midlife crises, but it's really a jolting or awakening of this energy. And right now, everyone is getting it because the whole entire earth is being stimulated, just like you might be if you were younger and you woke up. So that can happen from actually a bump, an accident, a drug experience. It can just be spontaneous. It can be sexual. There can be a lot of different reasons why that life force was activated. You know, for some, it was just the simplest thing. And so when that happens, Kundalini kind of does this like lazy little like spurt, sit up in bed like the princess that's been asleep for so long. Like, what happened? And you can have this like very ecstatic, like, whoa moment, like, holy cow, like I just had this moment where I saw everything. I saw my life, or I saw things need to be different, or whatever that epiphany, blissful moment is. And then Kundalini again, like, goes back down and sometimes goes back to sleep for a while, maybe at a lighter sleep than before. And it can take several times of encouragement, several times of, is this person ready, is really what life force is doing. Is this person ready for me to completely rock their world? Because before Kundalini activation, a person could be living a very like simple life, but also very shallow, not necessarily in a negative way, but just dimensionally shallow. So really only dealing with one or two dimensions, just survival, basic needs, family, you know, a little bit of love kind of thing, but not to the extent that a fully awakened person can access consciousness in the world. So when Kundalini comes up, she's looking like she's saying, is this person ready for this? Is it right? Because a person that receives too much life force energy too soon before their mind can completely wrap around, that can kind of frazzle you and actually can make a person feel psychotic at worst, or schizophrenic at worst. So when that life force awakens, it tries to be very gentle with a person. It tries to, but sometimes isn't able to, not throw that person completely, off the cliff of where they thought they were before. So then why yogic practices and whatnot are helpful and why it's good to even know this stuff is because if you can know what stage you or someone is at, if you can notice it, if you can become aware. And one of the first practices, and we'll get into in the practices lessons, is a third eye awakening, a third eye cultivation, because that is the ability to witness this whole thing. Be the witness, be the observer, drashta. So if that capacity is awake, you can see even your own awakening process, that may be a little trickier than noting someone else's. And this becomes very beautiful and important in relating with other people, because sometimes we like to think their stuff is about us, but everyone is just going through an awakening process. We're just at different stages. It's like flowers blooming in a garden all together, and we're like slightly different ones, and so we think we know what's going on, or that they're judging us because we're not like them, but everyone's just really blossoming their own flower. But there's a similar element to it. There's stages that we can see and understand. So this Kundalini, once it starts kind of checking out the channels, it's going to start cleaning out the psychic channels, okay? Ida and Pingala are going to receive a cleansing, if you will, and just kind of almost like pressure washer through these channels, which can also lead to something that might look like bipolar, because you're going really far to one way and then you're going really far to the other way, and you're like, what am I doing? I just did that, now I did this. Or I'm sleeping all the time if life force is in Ida, or I'm really just can't stop going, can't stop cleaning my house, life force is in Pingala, in the active current. So depending on that, if you know this, then you can say, oh, this is what's happening. And then this Kundalini begins to go in and clean house in each of the chakras. Literally, like the queen just came home to the castle, that's your body, and notices no one's cleaned in a while, and if I'm going to live here, I got to make this look nice. And so the queen goes through each of the rooms and she makes it nice, and she pulls out the garbage and she recycles and everything. That's Kundalini. Why Kundalini is thought of as the she, the Shakti, the mother, the matriarchal energy that takes care. And consciousness is the vessel, is the masculine, is the one holding that space. So Shakti, Kundalini, comes into the rooms of our chakra and cleans them out. So if we have things stored there, which the chakras are also storage valves, because they're dialed to a certain place because XYZ, because this past life got you to here, or this ancestry got you to this point, or your childhood, this happened. So there's gauges on there that are not just from this lifetime, let's say. Your soul is going through a progression, lifetime after lifetime, and the chakras store that. There are valves and there are storage centers. And there's consciousness there, they're consciousness valves. So it is regulated by this life current. This life current comes in and is oh, we're ready to clear out chakra number 1, so all trust issues, things around money, security, safety, we're going to blow all that stuff out. And then the person will experience what they think and believe about those things. And the job of the person who's going through this is trying your best to hold the biggest vision, to step into the biggest trust, or to allow yourself to go through the process of feeling all of those things and just being okay with it. And that's actually part of Kundalini's journey is chakra number 2, often called the region for the dark night of the soul. So when Kundalini is in the second chakra, that is our karmic wheel, if you will. That is our ancestral stream, and it can be dirty and deep and mucky and all this. And it has to do with sexuality and satisfaction and all this. There's a lot of stuff in there. Some of it's societal and conditioning and whatnot. So as that stuff is like churning